It's movie time, and we're back again with movie time. Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to another Wednesday movie time. Hopefully that you had a wonderful weekend and that we are back again in Dee Heedy. And with me tonight is my co-host Arpo. Hey Arpo, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing marvelously so-so.
Yeah, and unfortunately Olaf has no voice till next Friday, and he has got massive laryngitis. So we wish Olaf to have a voice recovery very quickly. Due to his bronchitis, but he will be back again next Friday with us for movie time to rejoin us on our journey.
And I'm battling what has turned into a week-long cold. And to put this as delicately as possible, I've really been pushing the fluids. So if I disappear in the middle of the broadcast, you'll know why.
There you go. And yes, I know for all of us here, it is Memorial Day weekend. It is a Friday, but by the time this airs, it'll be a Wednesday for you all. So there you go. So I gave you a happy Wednesday on a Friday.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So just so that I can confuse you, the audience, even more. Also tonight we have got two incredibly fun topics. Our first one being to clear or not to clear. That is the question. When it is right to clear and do the clearance, or is it nobler to wait until production to clear all the things? And then our second subject, which is our big one of the night, is talking about, do you remake or dost thou sequel? Is it better to remake or is it better to sequel? So both very Shakespearean questions, and only because I saw a commercial for a new TV series that's talking about what happens after Romeo and Juliet died, called Star-Crossed.
Who cares?
Well, apparently we're going to have all about the Montagues and Capulets of what happened to them afterwards.
Again, who cares?
I don't know. William Shakespeare?
Rolling in his grave, maybe.
I don't know. It depends. It could be the next Tudors, for all we know.
I go with a big doubt that.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, I'm not sure. I said I'm going to give it an initial episode to see, and then if it winds up being really bad, then I won't do that. But I enjoyed Reign, which was a very creative telling of Mary Queen of Scots' story in 4 seasons.
Well, yeah, that was a historical thing. But you see, there's a reason why Shakespeare names the play Romeo and Juliet. They were the only two interesting characters.
Yeah, everybody else, the Montagues and Capulets, it was like, okay, they were filler in for understanding why the two families hated each other.
Yeah, exactly. They were the Purina dog child of the movie, or the play.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things of, we'll never ever know why they did what they did, why they do what they do. All we know is that we must travel to this very strange journey. Which brings us then to our first subject of to clear or not to clear. Well, that is a good question. When to do your clearances. First of all, clearances are very necessary. They are a very necessary part of the process. They are actually your final check before you should be saying your script is good. Do you know a little bit about clearances, Arpo?
I know a little bit. I know that you could go to a clearance agency and you give them your script, or at least a detailed idea of what you're doing, and they pretty much go through everything to see if anybody else has done it, or is currently working on something similar.
Also, if there's any real life characters as well, like real life people that are on your work of fiction, or if it is based on a real life person, that you've gotten the rights to their life.
Yeah.
And to make sure that also, if it is a fictitious person, for example, it's like Sally who works in a office. If it's Sally who works in an office who has red hair, there might be 50,000 Sallys with red hair who work in an office. But, if it's like Sally Maple who works in the office who has red hair that happens to be on Bay Street, it's like that kind of narrows your pool down.
Yeah.
Which Sally that you're talking about.
That's right, Sally. We're talking about you.
Yes, you. So yeah, in terms of that, it's like clearances are important. Clearances also make sure that you have cleared all your copyrights as well, and all your asks, so that when you write into the script and they're doing, Rolling Stones song Satisfaction, that it actually is been cleared that the Rolling Stones have given you permission for Satisfaction via SOCAN and ASCAP and BMI and all of that.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing a product placement, like saying, and the person held up a bottle of Coca-Cola, that you got Coca-Cola's permission to do so. They will flag these things in your script and say, need to get permissions. It's like, these are some of the other things that they do. Parts of that is, like I said, if it is, for example, a Sally who works in that Bay Street office, they could say, well, why don't you change her name to Samantha, to Susie, and give you 25 other names.
Wait a minute. Okay. Here comes Mr. Naive.
Yes.
I thought I had them hold up a bottle of Coca-Cola. That Coca-Cola would pay me for the product placement.
Not necessarily, unless you have an agreement with the Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola companies.
Oh,
I know, right?
I never knew that.
Yep. That's why that lovely scene in Wayne's World, I absolutely love that one scene where they're holding up all of those products because they got all that product placement. And they were like, we are not into shameless product placement, as they're holding up the pizza and all that.
Yeah.
And all of those other companies. And why we keep asking for the White Chocolate Peanut Butter Company to please come and be our sponsor.
That's right. Because I really don't think I should hold their jar up anymore.
Yeah, I think so. Until they say no.
Yeah.
Or until they buckle and say yes.
Yes. They must buckle.
Yes.
If they want their peanut butter shown on this show again, I started going into Excel now. There.
Yep.
If they want their peanut butter shown on our show again, then they better hook us up as a sponsor.
Yep. So that's always good news to have. And when you should do your clearances is when you have got a finalized script. Because clearances can be expensive. They can be as much as $3,000 to clear, to do your clearances.
Well, what if I don't have that kind of money?
Well, what happens is that's by the time that goes into the development funds of production.
Oh.
So it's part of the writing initiative that you should always have for clearances allowed into your budget. And you can phone different clearance companies. Each one of them charge differently, but they essentially do the same job. They are there to protect your butt when it comes down to it.
Wow.
I know.
So
and you know what the other...
good to already be working with like a producer or a financial person when you're writing the script, so that when the script is done, there are funds there to do the clearance.
Correct. Although there are certain companies that will charge. Again, it depends on the company. Some of them charge less than $3,000, but at the same time, you may have to clear a script more than once, and that's why I'm saying you probably want to budget in $3,000 into that. Because also any changes that happen must also be dealt with in that manner. If they are massive changes, like re-adding materials into your script.
Ooh.
Also, clearances are really, you don't want to wait for production also, because just in case that something has not been cleared in terms of your sets, in terms of your costumes, they do all kinds of clearances, including location. Because it's like, if you are trying to show a real city, then they need to know that. Or and there are things that are in public domain that have been already cleared, and if you're using a character in public domain, then by all means, they will tell you it's public domain, and you have every right to be able to do that. If there is a character that is not yet in public domain, like for example, the late great Roger Moore, if somebody wanted to do a character called Roger Moore, who happened to have been a Bond actor, amongst his many other credits, but was most famous for his James Bond credits. Then
and the Saint.
Yes, and the Saint. It's like those two have got to be like his biggest ones in terms of credit. He has a multiple of other credits, but for the initial argument, that is the ones.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do a Bond-esque character like that, then you need to be able to make sure that you do all of your initial clearances towards that. It's like right now you would have to ask the estate, are they cool with you using Roger Moore's name and his likeness and stuff like that. People that have already been clearanced in history, like for example Edgar Allan Poe, he has been long dead. He is public domain. Therefore you can use his name and his likenesses and all of that. And I'm not sure if he has relatives alive or not that can refute it. There are many people who, like I said, that when you are looking at it from a project's point of view, even if you are using a living person, they need to see it in terms of a clearance company. They will clear your documents if they see that you have gotten the rights from that person to use their name and likeness.
Right.
Which, again, will save you legally a lot of problems if you do it once your script is in its final scripting stage. I'm not telling you the minute that you write your script, do go to every clearance company and its mother and please start clearing out your script. You want it at the stage where you're ready to have it be seen by people, to be clearanced and being shopped around. Because nothing is worse than a producer who takes on a project that has not had its clearances done, finds out that they have to do a lot of changes just before production begins.
Right.
Because that can be a very expensive ordeal. So the basic $3,000 that you would spend can probably save you a whole lawsuit of millions.
Now I'm going to interject a personal.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's suppose that there's a fictional character. Say one that was created by L. Frank Baum for his Oz series.
Yes.
Now, all those characters are in public domain.
Yes.
And you want to make a movie about this specific character.
Mm-hmm.
And you've written the script.
Yes.
But someone else is also making a movie about that specific character.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that run into a clearance problem?
It does. Because it's like if you both have now, if you have knowledge of each other, that is where the problem comes in. Did you have knowledge of the other script that was being done and purposefully did one of your very own? Or are the two stories completely different, or are they both based on the same public domain work? This happened with Dangerous Liaisons in Belmont.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm aware of the other person's work.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea, the script that I'm thinking about is an idea that the other person totally dismissed. They had the idea and they said, no, that's not right for the script.
As we know, ideas are not copyrightable. Neither is a character in public domain.
Okay, so this person cannot come after me and say, hey, you stole my idea for a movie.
Ideas are not copyrightable. 20 people can have the same idea.
Well, given that circumstance, and I know you're aware of the details on that,
Mm-hmm.
then I have a producible script. I have to just make some minor changes.
However, if any of it reflects her work or his work, the initial person's work, you must eliminate that initial person's work and have it only completely original your own work.
Right. So the person has created a fictitious story, and I'm doing it from it's initiating in Oz.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
As long as it is diverse enough. And again, you can ask a lawyer on this. I'm not putting it as gospel.
Yeah.
This is from the vast knowledge of people that have said it. It's like if it is that different that you would not be able to recognize it from the original work, where the original work is there, but you cannot recognize it if you were to put them side by side.
Right.
It is your own derivative of it. It's your own work at that point. When you cannot recognize the original work or the original source material, if you wanted to take that an initial fictitious character that is in public domain and do your own complete movie on that, there's nothing that infringes on them taking that same character and doing their own movie on it, as long as neither one of you have collaborated with each other and that the movies themselves are completely separate.
Right. Okay.
So this is actually a very good thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in public domain, people have done different movies about different people in history. There's been several movies done on different presidents.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. Which would be completely different than Lincoln.
Yeah.
Then you have works, like I said, like Dangerous Liaisons and Belmont. Two works that were done at the exact same time from the same author's work. Neither one of the companies were aware of each other or anything when they had done it. It's not exactly like you could switch that story up at all.
Yeah.
They were not aware. Completely separate writers. They determined that they were absolutely no way that they could have acknowledged one another or had any derivative of one another. And for it wound up being that, in terms of their copyrights and everything, it wound up being a win-win situation for them both. Whoever you loved more, whichever version of it. Personally, I was a fan of Dangerous Liaisons, but that's me. Some people like Velma much better. But bottom line is that it's like when you have a public character, public works, more than one person can do a story on that. As long as it is their own independent work. It is not a derivative of that work. And by Bollywood standards, however, what they say is if they change 7 things, they consider it to be their own their own work. So basically, if you can't recognize the initial story within the story that you did, then they are completely separate.
Now, how does that work with Cruel Intentions, which was literally a modern retelling of Dangerously Your Sons?
Again, they got a copy of the work and they modernized it. So, but that work is in public domain.
Okay.
Dangerous Liaisons. It's been in public domain for a number of years. It's like, and you know, how did they manage to do Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? And different works.
So the people who made Dangerous Liaisons can't go after the people who did Cruel Intentions and say, hey, you're making our movie.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Because as long as it's a public works, it is not subject to being able to, and as long as clearances have also been done for it, because this is again where you go into the script clearance stage. They will clear it if you are basing it on a work, or you're inspired by a work. You must tell them what the work was that you were inspired by. If it's by a living author or by many living authors, you must give them a list of all of that so that they can go against that work to see what needs to be changed and give you the guidance to be able to clear the work. To say, yes, this was the original work, but your script has nothing to do with this. It is not, even though it was inspired by this, or was not a derivative of, was not a direct copy of that, or a plagiarizing of that work. Or the other thing that they can do is say, no, this has to be, it's like, it is not different enough, therefore it cannot be cleared. You must do the initial changes. They will not guide you on what changes, by the way, in clearance of more than suggestions in terms of names and stuff like that. They cannot suggest how to change plot points. They will just tell you where it needs changing.
Right.
So basically it is like having an editor in its own way of turning around being like a script editor that says, nope, too similar to the original work. Need to change that. Or, nope, can't clear it because it's too similar to the original work.
Right.
But if it is different than the initial work, it's like, you're good. This is why sometimes when people are this is also another reason why the whole unsolicited comes into mind, because it's like if somebody who reads scripts as a profession has read multiple works by different people, it can all bleed forward if they try and do it as well.
Right.
Or if they read somebody's work and then by accident it winds up in somebody else's writing. Or on purpose, then again, that's where lawsuits do happen. So there is a life lesson for you. Clear your work. To clear or not to clear? Yes, to clear. And do it at the stage when you know that your script is ready to go onto camera. Copywriting things, even through the Library of Congress and all of that, they will do an initial search, but that's not a clearance.
Right.
It is a copyright registration. You have to show chain of title and everything with that through Library of Congress, Writers Guild. They have different requirements on the Writers Guild in regards to it. They'll assign you a Writers Guild number, but that doesn't mean that you have clearance to do your script. So, in other words, clear, and more clear. because that will be the lawsuit that you save the $3 million on by spending $3,000.
Okay. So that seems pretty clear.
Excellent. We got it clear on our clearance.
Yes.
Which brings us to our fun point tonight, and the biggest topic that we've had: to remake or to sequel. Now, we have talked about remakes in a very, unfortunately, artificial way. What we are going to be talking about tonight is, okay, you know what? You've decided that the work needs to be remade, or the powers that be say, you know what? It's been 30 years. Let's go ahead and redo this movie. And it's already, right. It's how is it discussed if it's to be a redo or a sequel. Now, this comes to an interesting loggerhead, and one that we will probably be speaking with Franco on Wednesday about, because we are going to be re-interviewing Franco Sama.
Yay!
It is awesome, because it's like he was just so good the first time around. It's like we didn't nearly get as much information as we could have possibly within that time period. I wanted him like 3 more hours to sit down with us.
Okay, so clear 3 hours on Wednesday.
Yes. There you go.
Got it.
Yep. So initially, what I was saying, though, is that I had seen 2 remakes that are happening on television, and I was going, okay. I watched the remake of Dirty Dancing yesterday, the one that was on Wednesday.
I thankfully missed that.
Yeah, I recorded it. And okay, what to say about that, the remake of that? And this is, again, a personal opinion. The person that they had playing Johnny Castle was about as romantic as a wet mop.
Now, I've seen some pretty romantic wet mops.
Well, you know, this one was like the, you know, that squeegee melon one, the one that's in the corner with like the cobwebs and all of that you like took out 25 years later kind of thing.
Oh, the one with the sponge that's starting to get that little edge of mold?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the crustiness, like where it's so crusty and hard, it's like it's not even soaking up water anymore.
Yeah. Love those.
Yeah, well, that was about as, you know, amazingly kept. And you know what? And then again, audience, you may disagree. You may find him completely hot and sexy and all of that. But however, Abigail Breslin as Baby was awesome, actually.
I can see where she would be.
Yes.
She's a very good actress.
And yeah, it's like she is a brilliant, she really is brilliant in that sense. And I mean, she really did fit the role nicely. They did great casting with that. And they also had a very interesting take, I'll call it, on the Houseman's relationship. But wasted so much of an opportunity that they could have by making it so sanitized. You know what it actually reminded me of? When they tried to do the remake of Dirty Dancing the first time as a television series.
Oh, yeah.
Only they took out everything that was Kellerman's about it. This time, at least, they kept the whole Kellerman's thing and the whole entire, that sort of feeling with having Abigail Breslin and all of that with it. You know, like keeping that whole entire thing going. It's like when they did that for that television series, I was like, okay, they are not waspy Americans. It's like, no, that sucked like the complete bone marrow out of the whole idea of Kellerman's.
Yeah. Okay, because I didn't see the movie.
Yes.
But I'm looking now at the guy who played Johnny Castle. And I guess he's a member of Pink.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like overcompensating for that, bad boy look.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Johnny Castle wasn't the bad boy.
No. And, it's like I understand that they tried to make their own footprint into it. Some of the things that they did footprint-wise was interesting. Other things, it was like, why? Why are you trying to ruin a classic film this way?
Yeah.
I understand, put your own stamp on it, which again is, but you're trying to capture a moment again and try and make people feel like there's a moment. And I have to admit, there were some moments in that movie that did feel very nostalgic of the 87 movie.
But I'm sure most of that was Abigail Breslin.
Yes.
Who is a much finer actress than I think a lot of people give her credit for.
Absolutely. And I would 100% agree with that. That was where this was all at, is her brilliant performance. It's like, if you had nothing else out of that, it was the brilliant performance of her as Baby.
Yeah.
You could have taken, the guy who played Max Kellerman, he was all right. Again, it's like he made me laugh, he made me smile.
Yeah.
Some of the people on there made me long for the 1987 movie. They will remain nameless. And
you didn't mean that the nice one, did you?
No. And
well, it's like, how do you replace Harry or Bob?
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
But you don't make him sound like Captain Von Trapp.
Certainly not with Bruce Greenwood.
Yeah, and don't make him sound like Captain Von Trapp.
Yeah.
It's like,
Tony Roberts is Max Kellerman. Okay, I bet he was good.
He was great. What would have been nicer if Joel Grey would have been there as Max.
Oh, Joel Grey would have been perfect.
Yes. And Deborah Messing as Mrs. Houseman did a really nice job.
Yeah.
And the one who played Vivian Pressman, that also was really good. Yeah.
Nicole Scherzinger. Oh,
She actually did a decent job.
This is a really good casting.
Yes. And like I said, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. Was it tolerable? Yes. Would I replace the 1987 movie with it and say, oh my God, was such a cool modern remake for it? No. But the idea that we are talking about here is there is that, and then there is the redo of Dynasty that is coming up. When I saw the commercials for it, I nearly dropped to the couch going, why? Because Dallas was such a wonderful success that you thought, oh, good, let's do a new version of Dynasty. So
I'm sorry, I'm just flashing through some stills from Dirty Dancing, and I'm just curious. Does his facial expression ever change?
From constipated, no.
Wow. He's terrible. What a bad piece of casting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I was sitting there and watching, I was like, okay, there's about 20 different people I could have cast for that.
Yeah.
It kind of made me feel like the way that it was when you're talking about with the Star Wars movies. You know, they did a worldwide search, and the greatest one that they got was Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
It's
like, what?
Yeah. The worldwide search, and that's who you picked. Well, in terms of Johnny Castle, it's like, okay, so you did a casting search, and this is what you got.
It speaks volumes when you don't even have to see the performance. You can look at a couple of dozen stills and see that he's wrong for the part.
Correct. You know, and it got lost the whole meaning behind that. So it was one of those, okay, so the meaning and the message. But the point is that so you decided that you are going to do a movie remake, or the powers that be have said, let's remake this.
Yeah.
Well, how do you go about this in terms of appeasing an audience? In terms of that, because let's face it, a lot of the actors that you would have wanted to have, without putting cameos and sequel and stuff like that in there, because sometimes cameos are not available. The late great Jerry Orbach, there is no reviving him for this, and a lot of the cast, unfortunately, that was part of Dirty Dancing is no longer.
Yes.
From that 1987 cast. So, as a good example, or they're talking about initial remakes of different products. There's another reboot of Spider-Man. We're not going to go into whether it's right or wrong. That's a different kind of superficial show that we don't go into.
Yeah.
What I am going into is, okay, so we've decided that we are going to make this. Just because you want to make this, and it's been financed, it's been greenlit and all of that, go. What do you feel that it comes in is one of the main things when it comes to appeasing the current audience who is very popular with this and bringing in a new audience? What do you feel is that first thing that you want to do?
I think the first thing you want to do is make sure you're acknowledging the original in a way that people will say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I would like to see this take on it."
Yes.
I mean, we have to kind of make a distinction between a remake and a reboot.
Correct. There's remake, reboot, and sequel.
Yeah. Because
remake,
like when they rebooted the Star Trek
franchise,
for example, they did a great job with the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But the third movie, they destroyed the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And they replaced it with the Enterprise A.
Okay.
1077-A.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the exact. I'm not that big of a trick.
Yeah.
But that means they are truly rebooting it because now the first four movies of the original franchise never happened.
Yeah.
And
which is kind of interesting. It's a new take.
Yeah. But I also feel it's kind of cheating us those of us who like the original franchise.
Mm-hmm.
To suddenly say, well, boom, that franchise doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I feel that's wrong.
Yes, then that can be wrong as well. Now, where it was right is that they carved their own niche into that market.
Yes.
By making an original story that's the initial characters.
I'm not saying that's a bad franchise. Or that they're bad movies. They're really good movies.
If you like Star Trek, sure.
Yeah. But I feel that they're cheating fans by negating the original franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for most of us fans, whether we're diehard or just casual fans, there's only ever going to be one Captain Kirk and one Spock.
Yes.
And to negate their work, to me, seems to be something you're new at the original franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's a big.
Well, yeah, and it is when you have discounted that in terms of a reboot where you're nullifying the original to be able to make room for your reboot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To me, it was one of those things of that when I watched all of the when I watched the initial Transformer movie, I was like, "Did you ever watch the cartoon? Because what you just did was horrendous." There was no robot. It was about the humans. It wasn't about the robots, and I frankly could care less about the entire movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, which animated version are you talking about? Because
the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s. Okay, the original.
Yes.
That was really outstanding writing. Horrible animation.
But beautiful writing.
With beautiful writing.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they had given it the animation it deserved. You know, it's very strange when the robots are changing colors from one episode to the next.
Well, they didn't have colorization and color testings that they do today.
Yeah, well, I also didn't have any communication between the color people.
Well, yes, that's also another thing is that don't forget the colorist department was huge.
Yeah.
And also that you have to remember that it was playing internationally in certain colors you can't use in other countries.
Yeah.
They're considered offensive colors.
But yeah, the original animated series was great writing.
Yes.
And they made a movie after that single season.
Mm-hmm. That was brilliant.
It was. I mean, I wasn't that much into Transformers, but the woman I was dating at the time had a son who was just enamored of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him to the movie, and not really having watched the season.
Yep.
I'm sitting there going, this is a good movie.
Yeah. It makes you feel transfixed on the subject.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm saying that when you are doing a remake of a movie, now let's go for the audience for stepping back for a moment. Remake, reboot versus sequel. Remake. I see this work. I'm going to take the work and I'm going to make it into a new work, into that work. Reboot. I love the concept, but did not. But decided I'm going to make my own take on this. Sequel. Loved the characters. It felt that it was unfinished and wanted to give a new where it was going from there.
Right.
So just so that we are clear with the audience of what we are talking about here. remake, reboot, and sequel. When you are talking about rebooting something, this is where it became very fuzzy with a lot of people. When you're talking about a remake, when you're talking about remaking something, you have to pay homage to the original, as you had made mention.
Exactly.
A remake also requires you to give the audience something familiar to what they have already known in terms of costuming.
Certain of the plot points.
Exactly. Certain of the major plot points that would make it feel like, yes, I am still with you. There may be slight changes, but I'm still with you here.
Yeah.
It's
still the same basic story.
Yes, I still get the retro feeling there-ish, but I am moving forward. Okay, so in that sense, like I said, Dirty Dancing did have a few shades of that as the movie, as a TV movie, which was great. When they did Rocky Horror Picture Show, no, not so much. About the only, it's like, again, they decided to veer way off base with the casting. And that's where,
making Dr. Frankenfurter from a transvestite to a transgender.
Yeah.
Was completely wrong.
Yes. Amazing actress, Lavernas. Kudos to her. But no, even she could not save that.
Yeah.
Frankenfurter is a man who is a transvestite. Again, using Kinky Boots terminology, a transvestite, Boris Yeltsin in a dress, drag queen, looks like Kylie.
Yeah.
So, to paraphrase Kinky Boots. So basically, when they're talking about transvestite, yes, it does not mean transgendered.
Right.
So again, when you're talking about that, no, they did make that initial mistake. It also made a few other initial mistakes as well, with regards to that. Eddie, bad casting all around. Adam Lambert, sorry, is not Meatloaf. Not even close.
No. And boy, what a cool, they got getting Tim Curry to agree to play the narrator as such.
And
but why do I have this feeling that they brought him in for the one day of shooting that would require?
Yes.
And didn't let us see anything else of the movie.
I would probably guess that to be correct.
Because I can't imagine he would have done this if he had known what it was going to be like.
I wonder why Richard O'Brien allowed it, but that's okay. That's part of my questions of including why did he kill Columbia in the initial one when she did absolutely nothing wrong. But that's another interview.
Yeah.
If I ever get Richard O'Brien on here to be able to ask him that question.
All right, I'll work on it.
He will be part of our list of future guests because, yes, that would be my one initial question I have ever wanted to know. Why did you kill Columbia?
Yeah.
That was highly unnecessary. And but again, that's something for Richard O'Brien to be able to do. But when we are talking about, again, sequel, we are talking about something that is nostalgic of the original. Something that makes you feel that the original is being touched upon. Reboot, and again, this is where it came into that fuzzy territory with the whole Ghostbusters of whether it was remake or reboot.
Yeah.
We're using a lot of the initial dialogues and stuff and situations with the initial Ghostbusters, but then they also did their own takes on it as well. So it was one of those, and it was very confusing to people with it. But I happen to look, I will be one of the few people who said I enjoyed it. I may be part of the minority. I didn't absolutely adore it, love it, want to own it on DVD, but I saw it and I was like, it wasn't that bad.
Communist.
I know. I know. I'm gonna get tons of Ghostbuster hate mail from people going like, "How could you have even liked it?" It's like,
but yeah, Ghostbusters. What would you call it? A reboot or a remake?
A remake.
So it was more remake than reboot.
Yeah. Well, because they were using a lot of the initial things that were going at it.
Right.
But then they also added in things that were, again, highly unnecessary. But again, that's a director's take, a director-producer's take on that of trying to revive a franchise.
Yeah.
With a remake, and unfortunately, it was a failure of a remake.
So you don't think there's going to be a Ghostbusters?
No. If there now, what they could have done, however, is now this is where it comes down to the decision of, do you remake or do you reboot or do you sequel? There are certain shows that ended way too soon that I sat there and said, they would just be an awesome sequel if you could have continued that story. Derivative of a certain character on that. It's like, I'm sure that you could think of a million of them.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Honestly, it's like when they did a really good reboot for me was the initial RoboCop reboot of the movie.
I didn't see it, but I did hear a lot of people who liked it as well as the
Yes. Because it really did have its own vibe to it. And people did very much like it for that reason. So yes, when you are talking about that, I'm not saying that there isn't successful reboots, remakes, and sequels. When you are looking at a sequel, I've said many a time that there are certain, like I said, TV series, movies that you're like, come on, that just ended completely wrong.
Yeah.
Just ended way too soon.
Twin Peaks, for example.
Yes.
And they're finally getting around to fixing it.
Yeah. That's one. It's like, I did not get to see any of the Pretender movies. I would have liked to see those Pretender movies because apparently it wraps up a lot nicer. But you know what? I would have liked to see more of that. Let's continue Jared's story all of these years later, young Jared, or Jared 2. Now that they know that they were, they're what is going on. If those people who don't remember Pretender. Certain series, I'm glad that they ended. Would I want it rebooted? No. But another one I would want to do a reboot / sequel to that would actually work in today's day and age, Facts of Life. Because a lot of the stories that they had on that show are very relevant to today.
That's true. They push the envelope on more things than people realize.
Yeah. And it'd be nice to have seen, to bring in some of the experiences of today into a Facts of Life.
A transgender student at the girls' school.
Mm-hmm. Or it's like, again, that they touched on things like when Trudy went over to New York, met that girl who, it's like she asked her to take her like if she can go home with her.
Yeah.
That episode, and I mean, that would be an interesting one. It's like, again, looking at it, it would be a wonderful opportunity. It's like if they would to redo that once again, using a more modern twist. In that sense, would it pay homage to the show? Absolutely. Because there was valuable lessons in it. One of the things that I will say is a great successful sequel was Girl Meets World, who, after Boy Meets World, it's like a lot of them came on to Girl Meets World, and it was Corey and Topanga's kid.
Yeah.
On that show. So I kind of like that idea of them continuing that. Because, I mean, we grew up with Corey and Topanga, and then now they got married, and they have kids of their own, and seeing her journey. So that was
but without William Daniels.
Yep.
That got hard.
Yeah.
Because
say what you will about the other characters. he was the heart and soul.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's the whole thing, is that when you're looking at it from that point, it's like just like when they did the continuation of Dallas, we'll call it, for lack of a better word. As soon as JR passed away,
it was a sequel.
Sure, it was a sequel. As soon as JR passed away, they forgot how to plot.
Yeah.
It's like, and again, because Root is that the show was popular because, again, you were seeing some of the initial characters.
Yeah.
Darn you, Patrick Duffy.
As much as they tried to make the series continue to work
using
JR's sons, there was a reason why JR was trying to cut them out of the family.
Yeah.
They just weren't that good at being evil.
Yeah. They were like evil light.
Yeah.
To, again, quote Austin Powers, like the Diet Coke of evil.
Yes.
Now, would I want a fourth movie of Austin Powers? Absolutely.
I will forgive them for Goldmember.
I even enjoyed Goldmember.
I liked that. I thought it was a step down from the first two.
Yes. But I want a fourth one.
Yes.
Michael
Meyer,
if you're
listening,
another
Austin Powers, please.
Yep. It'd be shaggerific.
It would indeed. I wouldn't mind another Johnny English.
Yep. I would definitely go for another one of those. Because, and then, okay, so what we are saying is that those are continuations of a movie series.
Yeah.
That where it feels it ends too soon. So this comes down to where I was talking about reboot, remake, sequel. If you are going to do, if you have initially put the budget in on a remake or a reboot, with a remake, you want to pay homage to the original. With a reboot, you want to be able to make sure that people recognize the original, but at the same time recognize this as a story of its own.
Right.
With a sequel, you are hoping to continue a story that is already there. Now, that being said, they're supposed to do a fourth version. They were supposed to, or are supposed to do, a fourth in the Divergent series. they decided they were going to do that as a TV series instead.
Huge mistake.
Huge. They had a franchise that was extensively popular with the audience, and because of that, most of their cast dropped from it.
And the cast was what was making all those movies work.
Yes. And you know what? Honestly, if they made another Underworld movie, I would still go and see it.
Yeah. I liked one.
Yes.
I thought it was really good. Sorry.
That's okay. I enjoy Blood Wars. Yes.
Yeah, I thought I was glad to see them get back to the present. You know, after all the time they spent in the past doing the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
When the character that we really care about is Kate Beckinsale.
Yes.
So I don't care about. I see what it was necessary.
Yes.
To understand the season going forward to get this information that was in the prequel.
Yes.
But the characters didn't interest me.
Yeah, they didn't attract you as much as hearing Celine's story.
Yes, exactly. And now Celine's got it.
Yes.
And
that will be an initial.
This is
that's she's
going to be like the Christ of the vampires and werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I cannot wait to see her when she's out of hiding.
Yeah. No, they have to do at least one more.
Yeah.
Now Resident Evil, they vetted it at just the right spot.
Yeah. Please don't put another Resident Evil movie out.
No.
We're finished with that. You hit a good ending. Thank you.
Yeah.
Throw a cap on that.
They made. How many was the total? 5 or 6?
8, I think.
Resident Evil?
I think so.
Well, however many they made, it was the exact right number.
Yes. Well, you needed that many to be able to forward the plot.
Yeah. It's just like Rocky 5.
Yeah. They should have stopped it.
That's where it should have ended.
Mm-hmm.
And they even at the end of the movie did this wonderful piece of punctuation for the entire series when he and his son run up the stairs to the Rocky statue.
Mm-hmm.
And the son says, "Okay, Dad, let's go. Start heading through the building." Rocky says, all the years I've been running up and down these stairs, I never knew there were pictures in there.
Very good.
That was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting the punctuation on the entire series.
Yep. And then they did 6 and 7.
Nobody knows why. The money, that's why.
Yeah. Another one that they did a perfect punctuation on was Highlander.
Yes.
It's like there was a great end finale. But one of the ones I would like to see a sequel to, or a continuation of, that was too soon, was Birds of Prey. That initial series, Birds of Prey. If you wanted to reboot something, that would be a great reboot.
See, now that one I'm not familiar with.
It was a really good beginning of that series. but it deserves the same treatment that they did as they've now done with Supergirl. With Birds of Prey, it's like it would fall right into the perfect category of, if you wanted a trifecta of an evening of entertainment, you hit Supergirl, you hit Arrow, and then you hit Birds of Prey.
Interesting. Now, for me, if I wanted to see a series come back,
there's one from.
My God, let me IMDb
this.
I want to get the date right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
1989. They made a TV series based on the movie Alien Nation.
It
ran for one season.
It ended
on a cliffhanger.
It deserves another season.
What they did was 5 years
later,
they finally got
the entire original cast back together
to make a
TV movie
because
all the thousands
of fans of the show writing in to say, okay, you canceled it, but you can't leave us on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
You have to
finish the story.
So
they did. They made a TV movie that basically comprised the conclusion of the cliffhanger.
Nice.
It was so well received
that they made four more
TV movies. Now, when it's getting received that well, and you've got a cast that is saying, "Hey, we'll do this again." Am I still coming through?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay.
For a second there, I wasn't.
Oh, no worries.
But here you've got the original cast back together again, saying, "Yes, we want to do this. Why do you not?" And you've got thousands of fans saying, "Yes, we want to see this. Why do you not make the series again?" And now they'd have to completely recast it.
Yes, they would.
But
it was such a great show. And so well written. And it deserves to come back.
Yeah.
Because there is an audience space for it.
There is. And that would be why I'm saying that in terms of shows, it's like there is one that would need a revival. Like I said, for me, Birds of Prey would be that revival.
Yeah.
And they started out with a really good story on it. They unfortunately cut it too soon. And that's what wound up happening.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to give them time. Look how long it took for the BBC to realize, hey, there's still a lot of people who like Doctor Who.
Yes. And now we have a brilliant Doctor Who series.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we are saying, though, in this sense of when you are deciding to make a sequel versus making a remake or reboot, when you are looking at a sequel, You must look at a sequel from a point of view of what is it that the audience will feel is unfinished in your show. Do they feel that the story has a furthering? And when you are writing it, and when you're looking to actually produce it, you have to, again, with all three of these things, you have to keep in mind the original work.
Yeah.
Because if you are going to do a sequel that has absolutely nothing to do with the original work, it will fall short.
And just in case everybody's, thinking about this, not Casablanca. They've already tried. It failed miserably.
Yeah, because
certain movies are just perfect.
Yeah. Certain things don't need cannot have a reboot. I won't say should not have a reboot, because it seems that doesn't seem to fall into a category. It's doesn't need a reboot. They are perfect as they are. Leave them alone.
Yes.
If you tried to reboot it again, you will find that not only is there no audience for it, but there is also no attraction to any sequels or reboots.
Yeah.
So our point being that for all of the audience members who are out there, in terms of our story for tonight, yes, go with clearance, because we have now made that clear. In regards to, if you're going to do a remake, you need to have all of the elements of that. And if you cannot get any of the original actors to come aboard on a remake of the series, at the very least, make sure that you're respectful of the series, the film, the initial work, and try to mimic it as much as possible without infringing on it.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a reboot, understand what you loved about it in the first place, and don't do I think I have my own take on it, without realizing, are you insulting the original work? A perfect example of a reboot that was insulting, that it was not even a reboot, was an original that was insulting, was Gem and the Holograms. And no, I will never get off of that subject of Gem and the Holograms. It's like there was nothing that was of any consequence to the actual original animation series.
Josie and the Pussycats.
Josie and the Pussycats was another one that did that same exact thing. It was did anybody even actually watch it? Like, in terms of the original cartoon? Another one, Aeon Flux. Other than the name, pretty much nothing else even remotely reflected Aeon Flux.
Yes. And question. Did we need a live action Ghost of the Shell?
That's a question to be answered by box office. I would probably say that we could have left it alone, but I have yet to see Ghost in the Shell, the movie, to see whether it is good. It has left me curious.
Well, the original anime was brilliant. And then they remade it as a newer form of anime.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brilliant. I felt it didn't need the live action treatment.
It didn't feel as though that it should have had a live action.
Right. And I'm not saying that about all anime.
Yeah.
Just that there is some anime that should not be made into live action. I do not want to see a live action Akira.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can never live up to what is really
the masterpiece of anime that got most of the Western Hemisphere into anime to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that made everybody stand up and say, "Hey, this stuff's good."
Yeah.
So don't mess with it. Leave my Akira alone.
Yep. And like I said, that there are things that we do need. It's like in regards to that, and yet there are still things that it's like, again, leave the original work alone. It was beautiful as it was.
Yeah.
And wherever possible, understand that, we are not trying to say don't do remakes. We're trying to say, okay, also when you pick your work that's going to be done, also understand, is there a demand for it from the audience? This is another thing that a lot of people fail to recognize. Right? And I call it my fail to launch on that. Of no, not everything warrants or requires a remake, a reboot, or a sequel. Some things are perfect just as they are. I would never remake, reboot, or do anything like that to Breakfast Club. Though I hear that has been rumored to be trying.
No, see, that's just wrong. There are enough shows and movies that have paid homage to Breakfast Club.
Yes.
You don't really need to make Breakfast Club again.
Correct. Another one that was beautiful just the way it was. And not something that needs to be multiply done again. So with that being said, also, it's like when you're looking at it, I will give a nod out to the fact that there is a Baywatch movie that has come out. And it has an initially interesting cast. That being said, I'm the least curious to want to see it. I'm slightly curious, only because of the cast that's in it, with Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron.
Yeah. Well, my attitude is, if you were a big fan of the series, don't go see this movie.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen in this movie, they are making fun of the series.
Yep.
It's kind of like Dark Shadows. If you went to see it as a fan of Dark Shadows and expecting that same thrill that you got from the series, you walked out disgusted.
Yeah, but if you understood that it was...
Yeah, for those of you who did that, watch it again, and this time watch it as a satire of Dark Shadows. It's brilliant.
Exactly. It's like, understand that not everything is not that some things are just a parody of the original. I want to see the redo of Chips, personally. Because Chips in itself was its own satire.
Yeah. That was why I couldn't understand them making a satirical movie when the series, especially the last couple seasons, was pretty much a parody.
But yes, I do want to see the movie version, because it's like Dax Shepard is supposed to be hilarious. And it's like, he will definitely make the movie. So
yeah.
Yes, I do want to see it. And I would, but before I do, I'll probably have to at least, try and YouTube a few or Netflix a few episodes of Chips to even remind myself of some of the funny moments of the series.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we would also say then in that particular category, when this is like again a rebooted version or a satire parody of the initial, that is a different kind of category altogether. When you are trying to satire a movie, I love all the scary movies because they satire a bunch of movies that it's like really should have made fun of themselves to begin with. And it's like they had a really cool thing, satiring The Omen and all of that.
Yeah. I love the Saw series.
Yep.
And I think it was the second or the third did a great satire on Saw in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That I won't give away. But do watch the scary movie series. They're all funny.
Yes.
And if you're a horror fan, like I am, you're going to catch all the in jokes, and it's going to be that much funnier.
It is. And I would highly recommend it for people. And you know what? There is another movie that deserves another sequel.
Yeah.
If they could ever free up Anna Faris. No, I hope that Mom finds itself like 9 other seasons because it's really hilarious and funny and cute. But even that will have to come to a punctuation at one point.
Yes.
But yes, it would be fun to have another one. Just in case. So that being said, we have covered this also in a new and interesting way, we hope, for you guys. So, Arpo, how do they get you in social media?
Well, if you want to be social, there's my Facebook account.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a little more business-like, there's my LinkedIn account. And of course, I'm known to occasionally stalk the forums around.
Uh-huh.
Or you can just be a Skype buddy. But maybe not this week. I don't want anybody to catch my cold. I appreciate taking the risk of having me on the air with you tonight.
Yep. It's like I took my echinacea, and you should too.
I'm wondering if your computer caught my cold, and that's why you were having trouble with it before the show started.
It's possible.
But I got some echinacea to your computer.
Yeah, probably. And then also we can get me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Bizipedia, Twitter at Sonata Grayson, at Movietime Indie, as well as also we will have as well. You can also get me on the YouTube page, on the 14 different stations that we are now podcasted on. And as I've said, with 4 pages of footprint, if you cannot find me, you're just not stalking me hard enough. And be on the lookout in the next few weeks coming up for more information on what they didn't teach you in film school, as well as also a few other interesting little tidbits that are coming up. And on Wednesday, we will be having an early movie time with our guest, Franco Sama, joining us. So absolutely, I am so glad that he is back again. Please feel free to review the first one with him. It was just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that the second one will be just as wonderful for us too. And until then, we wish you all good night.
Namaste, everybody.